Thank you. I'd appreciate that. I want to know, and maybe it's both all witnesses here, whether the Federal Public Service uses technology and digital platforms to deal with issues of bias. There are digital platforms that can be applied to all your processes, and they will tell you through some formula. And I'm not in fact, I'm a total techno twit, I should admit, but they are able to spit out the information. There are other platforms that help you deal with name-based biases, which we know are still prevalent as part of our hiring processes. Unfortunately, bias still exists, and so anonymizing resumes help you get over one part of the bias. And I know that some of these platforms are being used by the Canadian Armed Forces, I believe, and having specific success in screening in and interviewing and hiring candidates who are disabled. I know that IRCC uses other platforms. I've also heard that the Treasury Board uses these platforms. Is there an effort to evaluate some of these platforms and embed them into the machinery of government in the Public Service of Canada?
Maybe I can comment on that since we do have some experience with this. First of all, I would mention that we did do a research project on the use of anonymized recruitment. It was a pilot project that we conducted about 3 years ago. And we'd be happy to share the report from that project. At the end of the day, it was inconclusive as to whether anonymizing the information did lead to better outcomes for particularly visible minorities. And in fact, it was a very cumbersome process in terms of, I called it the Swiss cheese resumes, where so much of the information had to be blacked out that it was hard for managers to use. In terms of automated systems, we have worked with one department in testing whether automated screening, artificial intelligence in screening might be an effective tool, and particularly to test it with respect to bias, because if there's one thing that's worse than human bias, it's machine bias, because that's much harder to fix.
Sorry.
So we did do an experiment, worked with this department, and at the end of the day, it was deemed that the screening process is too complex to apply machine learning techniques, because machine learning, artificial intelligence is good at yes/no decisions, and a little bit less so when there are a lot of different factors that need to be evaluated. So we are continuing to monitor other experiments with the use of artificial intelligence, but again, concerned that we make sure that we don't introduce machine bias while we're trying to eliminate human bias.
Of course, but not using them at all, I would suggest is a lost opportunity. We do know that many of the biggest corporations in Canada are now embracing these platforms to help them deal with their diversity problem. So I'm pretty sure that there is some good stuff that you can learn from them, but hopefully that is a matter for another day. Madam Chair, do I